So this lesson is just a continuation of the last lesson on 11.2 complex numbers. So today what we're gonna do is just multiply them, add them, subtract them. That's it. Okay, so this first example we have is 3 square root of negative 49 times negative 2 square root of 4. So the first thing we do here is we have to simplify, right? So in this case here, 3 I can't simplify. Square root of 49 is 7i, right? Because it's negative 49. Times negative 2, square root of 4 is 2. So if we multiply, again, 3 times 7 is 21i. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And when we're multiplying, we can multiply imaginary numbers with real numbers. Okay? So 21 times negative 4, 21i times negative 4 equals negative 84i. Okay? So that would be your first. So negative 84i would be your answer here. Okay? So my next example is this. Okay? So here we can go negative 9. 24 can be broken down into what perfect square goes into 24? 6 and 4. So 4 times 6. So then this would be 2i square root of 6. Correct? And everybody understands how I got 2i square root of 6 from 24, negative 24. Okay, so that's 7. 12 is broken down into 4 times 3. It's a negative 4, so it's going to be 2i again, square root of 3, right? So in this case here, we're going to multiply the negative 9 times 2i to get negative 18i. I'm going to leave the square root of 6 for now. And then 7 times 2i is 14i. And again, I'm going to leave the square root of 3 for now. Okay? So when I am approached with this type of problem, I am just going to gather the like terms and multiply them out. So I'm going to get the negative 18 times 14. I'm going to get the i's together. And I'm going to get the square roots together. Okay? So negative 18 times 14 is going to be negative 18 times 14 is the same thing as negative 10 times 14 plus 8 times 14, correct? Yeah, if you do this multiplication in your head or without a calculator. So this would be negative 140. No, I'm going to get rid of the negative for now because I know the answer is going to be negative. Okay, so it's going to be positive 140 plus 88 times 14. That's going to be 112. Okay, so 140 plus 112, that's 252. So that's negative 252. I times I is I squared times square root of 6 times square root of 3 is the same thing as square root of 6 times 3 or 18. Okay? And if I break down 18, then I would have 9 and 2, correct? 9 times 2. So then I would have negative 252. I squared is negative 1. This would be 3 square root of 2. Do we all see that? Any questions on how I went from any steps here? No? So this would be a positive 252 times 3 square root of 2. And if I'm multiplying a whole number to a radical, 3 square root of 2, I'm going to be multiplying 252 by 3. Okay? This would be 756. Okay? So that's 756, and then the square root just stays the same. So that's my answer there. All right, so just to sum up, there is the work there. Okay. And I honestly purposely did not use a calculator. Okay? Because you guys don't have to either. All right. So my next one is this. You get a positive 252. So in this case, I cannot simplify 10 or 7, right? What's in my square root? But if there's a negative, if it's a negative 10 and a negative 7, it's our job to take out the negative with an I. Okay? So negative 8, I square root of 7 times 7, I square root of 10. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did in my previous example. So 7 times negative 8, and then I times I, and then square root of 10 times square root of 7. Okay? So 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. I times I is I squared. This would be 10 times 7 is 70. Right? So I squared again, remember, I squared is negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 56. That will be positive 56 square root of 70. And if you think about it, 70 doesn't have anything that we can take out. So it's the square root of 7. Cool? Questions on that? No? I want you guys to try this one. Okay, so I'll give you guys some time to try this. Okay, so in this case here, we have 4 I square root of 10 times 6 I square root of negative 30, right? Or not negative 30, positive 30. So I'm going to go, can I just go 4 times 6 now without writing out the work? Yeah. So 4 times 6 is 24. I times I, I'll just put I squared for now. Square root of 10 times, or 10, yeah, 10 times 30 is 300, right? So the I squared would be negative 1. So 24 times negative 1 would be negative 24. And then the 300 becomes 100 times 3. So that would be 10 square root of 3. Multiply those two numbers out. Negative 24 times 10 would be negative 240 square root of 3. Okay? Questions? Yes. How did I get 4i and 6i? Because I took out this in my square root. Yeah. That's where all the i's came from. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so my next example, now we are going to subtract them and we're going to add them. Okay, so this is simplify the expression to complex number form, a plus bi. So here we have this. And when we're subtracting class, our first step is to get this negative and distribute it out, or to get the minus and distribute it out. If we are distributing a negative, all we're doing is just taking the opposite sign. So if it's -7, the first one, it will be a +7. If it's a +7i, it will be a -7i. Okay, and just putting this down. Now that I've distributed out the minus sign or the negative, I don't need those parentheses anymore. Okay, those parentheses are gone. So now with this, I just gather the like terms. Okay, gather the real numbers, gather the imaginary numbers. So -2 times 7, that would be 5. And then 2i minus 7i, you get -5i. And that would be your solution there. Okay? That's it. Okay? So when we're adding them, like my next example, it's even simpler. Because we're just gonna ignore the parentheses and just gather the like terms. Okay? All right, so here's my next example. So if you see here, 5 plus 8 is 13. -i, take the sign with it, plus 10i is plus 9i. And that's it. Easy. Simple? Yes. If I distribute the negative or the positive, it'll just be the same thing. Right? So you don't really need to do it. But then yes, that's what we are doing. Yeah. Good catch. All right. Okay. I want you guys to try these two out. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. So for this first one here, 2 minus 6i minus -11 minus 10i, I'm going to first distribute out that negative, right? When I distribute it out, it's going to be plus 11 plus 10i, and then 2 minus 6i, and then all we're doing is gathering the like terms. So 2 plus 11 is 13, and then -6i plus 10i, that would be plus 4i, right? And this would be the answer. Okay. For the next one here, when you gather all the like terms, it would be 7 plus 9i. Okay, that would be your answer there. Okay, because we're adding, so you can kind of just disregard the parentheses here and just gather the like terms, and we're good. Okay. So now that we've added and subtracted them, now we're gonna multiply them. Okay. So this is our next one. Doesn't that look like two binomials? Yeah, we're multiplying binomials like our previous module, module 8, I believe, where we multiplied binomials together, or it might be module 6. Yeah, one of the modules in our previous module, one of the lessons there, we learned how to multiply binomials. We're going to use the exact same thing, okay, to multiply complex numbers. So just for a quick review, we just have to make sure that everything in this parentheses, all the terms in these parentheses, is being multiplied to every term here. Okay? That's all we're doing. So -1 times -7 is +7. -1 times +6i is -6i. And then +3i times -7 is -21i. And then 3i times 6i, that would be plus 18i squared. Correct? Yeah. I just made sure that my red parentheses, everything in the red parentheses, is being multiplied to everything in the green parentheses, right? And by the end of it, class, if it's a binomial, and if you do it this way, then you should have 2 lines underneath each term. Okay? So then here we have this I squared equals -1, right? Yeah, so then this would be plus 18 times -1, or it'll just be -18. Correct? Yeah. You understand where it comes from? Yeah. Because I squared is -1 and 18 times -1 is -18. What you can do to make it go quicker is just scratch this off and then put this plus as a minus. Okay? That could be your work. And I will understand that you understand where it comes from. Okay? So you could do it that way just to make the work a little quicker. So I'm going to write down everything here. And this is just the gather like terms exercise. Right? -18 plus 7, that's -11. And then 6i, -6i minus 21i, that's -27i. And your answer becomes a complex number. Okay? Questions on that? No? No? Okay. This next example, okay, is a special form. Okay, so we can use that special form. Okay, remember the special form. The special form in this case would be a plus b quantity squared, which equals a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. We used that during our completing the squares unit, right? Our lesson. Yeah. So here, my a value is 6 and my b value is I, right? 6 plus I quantity squared. So wherever I see an a, I'm going to put a 6. So a squared is actually 6 squared. And wherever I see a b, I'm going to put an I. So plus 2ab is times 6 times I. Plus b squared is I squared. Everybody understand? Yeah. So here we have 6 squared is 36. 2 times 6 times I is 12i. Plus I squared is -1. So gathering the like terms are the -1 and the 36. So this would equal 35 plus 12i. Cool? Yeah. So we can use the special form a plus b quantity squared, or the other special form if it's a minus equals a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. We could use one of these special forms to multiply 6 plus I quantity squared out. Or what we did when we learned this special form, and I kind of glossed over it, was because we could just multiply it out. 6 plus I times 6 plus I, and just use the FOIL or multiply this out, right? Okay, so if we multiply this out, it would be 6 times 6, which is 36. 6 times I, which is plus 6i. I times 6, which is plus 6i. And then I times I, which is plus I squared. Right? So this would be 36, 6i plus 6i, that's 12i, plus negative 1, which is I squared, right? So notice that if I gather the like terms, I get the same exact thing as above. Okay, so regardless of how you do it, you're going to come out with the same answer anyway. Okay? All right. So now I want you guys to try these two. Okay, so try it out and then we'll cover it in a little bit. So this first one here, again, I'm going to make sure that I multiply everything in my first parentheses to everything in my second parentheses. So negative 7 times 5, that's negative 35. Negative 7 times 3i would be negative 21i. 5i times 5, that's positive 25i. And then 5i times 3i, that would be plus 15i squared, right? So remember, when I see an I squared, the I squared turns a positive into a negative. So that could be my work, right? Negative 15. So negative 15 minus 35, if I gather the like terms, this negative 15 and this negative 35 make negative 50. And then 21i and the 25i, negative 21i and the 25i make plus 4i. And that's my answer there. Okay? This last one, I'm going to use the special form. Okay? So remember, a plus b's quantity squared equals a squared, so that's 11 squared, plus 2 times 11 times 9i, ab, 2ab, plus b squared. My b value is 9i. Okay, so you want to make that quantity squared. So 11 squared is 121, plus 2 times 11 is 22, times 9 is 198i, plus 9i quantity squared, that's 9 squared, which is 81, I squared. Okay? So remember, when I see an I squared, I'm just going to cancel it out, make a negative, right? Make it negative 81. So 121 minus 81, that'll be 40, plus 198I. And that's my solution there. Okay? Questions on this? Simple? Yeah, simple enough? Yeah. Any questions? What are your questions? Okay, that is the lesson for today. Thank you very much.